Hey there, in this video we'll be going over 10 common HR coordinator interview questions. My name is Josh Spector, I'm the founder of HR University and I'm a certified HR professional. Now this is a challenging task to answer these questions and it can get complicated when you're going for this HR job. And unfortunately it just is the way it is, and it means you have to practice and you have to look at resources like this one to ensure that you go in with your best foot forward. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of these HR coordinator interview questions and answers. While each organization and industry would have slightly different questions during an HR coordinator interview, there are some common questions. In some cases, it's the same question with a different setting. In any case, it's crucial to prepare yourself beforehand to go ahead and impress the hiring manager or the recruiter. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to get direct notifications whenever we post new and insightful videos like this one. That way you'll always be guaranteed your fair share of high quality instructional content from HR experts. Now let's go ahead and dive in. We have the first question here. Why are you applying for this HR coordinator position? When you've gone over the basics, the first question most recruiters will ask you is why you're applying for the position. It's crucial not to get fazed by this question and have a robust answer ready to go. This is your opportunity to steer the interview in your favor. That's because you can convince the interviewer that you want this position and that it's important to you. The upcoming questions will only reinforce your strong position. The best way to answer this question is by starting with a little background about your HR career. Briefly explain why you got into HR and try to spin it in a way that's inspiring. Once you establish that base, start delving into your HR career, go into a little bit of detail about how you started your career, including your first HR role, and how you have progressed over the years. After that, explain that the HR coordinator position is the next logical step in your HR career path. Meanwhile, it's important to also use the company angle. Mention that an HR coordinator role in that company would help boost your career and give you more opportunities to grow. And number two, what other jobs are you applying for? Usually after you answer the question about why you're applying for the position, hiring managers tend to ask about other jobs you have applied to. The question is there to check for two things: how serious you are about building your HR career at the company you've applied to. A green light will be if you tell them that you've applied to other HR coordinator and HR positions in the same industry, but at companies that have different offerings. That tells a recruiter that you're serious about building an HR career and that you're interested in the HR coordinator position of their company. For example, if you've applied for a finance job at another company, that would be a red flag for the recruiter. That tells them you're not 100% sure about an HR career and that you've applied to the position for the sake of getting a job. A green light will be if you tell them that you've applied to other HR coordinator and HR positions in the same industry, but at companies that have different offerings. That tells a recruiter that you're serious about building an HR career and that you're interested in the HR coordinator position of their company. What do you think the HR coordinator position entails? This question is a shot in the dark that's only asked to gauge your understanding of human resources in general. Many companies have redundant job descriptions. The actual tasks may be very different. However, they still expect you, the candidate, to have some sense of understanding of the role. While the ideal way to answer the question is to prepare an answer beforehand by researching HR coordinator roles in companies, you also need to leverage your work experience. That's how you can give more specific examples in these common interview questions. The more tangible it is, the more likely you'll get hired. For example, you can even reference some HR tasks from your last job to make your point. In any case, you need to explain the HR coordinator role as an interviewee to show them that you understand what is required from the job. Number four, do you think you have the necessary skills to become a human resources coordinator? It's hard to provide an accurate representation of your skills. That's why recruiters ask it as a direct question to gauge your response. Every job deems some skills as important skills while others are considered passive and not so important. The HR coordinator job requires you to have excellent interpersonal and communication skills, for starters. Other than that, you need to have great problem solving, decision making, and organizational skills. You can relay an accurate representation of your interpersonal and communication skills through confidence, straightforward answers, and great body language. However, to prove your problem solving and decision making skills, you might need to bring up some examples from a previous job or some personal examples. An HR coordinator would also need excellent team building skills. That means you have to prove that you're a team player and can assimilate with other team members seamlessly. And number 5, what HR duties are you most familiar with? Since each HR professional starts slightly differently, they may have varying career paths and career goals. This question is asked to check what you have done during your HR career to see how experienced you are. It also gives a sense of understanding of the work environment you have been in and what your expectations are for any human resources department. To answer this question, you need to explain what you did at your previous job, whether it was instructing employees, managing other interviewees, employees, and more. If you worked on benefits administration, leaves management, retirement plans, and other things, you need to explain exactly how you contributed. You also have to mention the times when you helped maintain discipline, foster team spirit, and worked on a common vision. However, be careful not to divulge any confidential information. And number 6, how does the role of leadership work in HR coordination? The HR coordinator job involves managing other employees at some level, and that's why leadership plays an important role in the job. While HR coordinators have to maintain a level of professionalism, they also serve as role models for people. Being motivated and positive is part of the job. You need those people skills to motivate other employees. The HR department needs to display itself as a helpful and motivating platform for existing and new employees, and HR coordinators play a vital role in doing so. You have to explain this entire concept during the hiring process. Other things that you need to mention as well are how you would manage tight deadlines and employee issues using your leadership skills. Number 7, how would you resolve a conflict with another employee? The interviewer might ask you multiple questions on problem solving since it's an essential skill you need to succeed in human resources. An office setting by nature brings together many different personalities and working styles. As a result, friction or outright conflict between employees is almost inevitable. When such a situation occurs, the human resources coordinator may be the first point of contact in HR for receiving a complaint. So make sure to listen for a candidate who can detail the importance of conflict resolution to the smooth operations of the organization and the need to resolve conflict as early as possible before a situation escalates. Refer to previous positions to help you describe how you resolved a conflict with an employee and elaborate on its significance. An example here, the key to resolving conflict is asking questions, listening, and taking notes about key points they make. In my previous role, I spoke to an employee about a disagreement on their performance. I listened to their disagreement before replying to give them the space to speak. I'd write notes about what they said, and I referenced them when I spoke to their manager. And I asked questions to the employees about actions that may have led to their behavior. Eventually, the employee understood why they needed to improve their performance, and I started the employee on the company's development plan. And number 8 here, share an experience where you have improved a system or process. The Human Resources Coordinator works with systems and processes each day when carrying out administrative supportive duties. It may be digital documentation of employee records, handling an employee grievance, managing employee benefit data, or even posting open job positions on job boards. It can even be tracking and interviewing and hiring processes or similar things to what I just mentioned. That's why you have to use this opportunity to mention that you'll be bringing in a unique and fresh perspective. That perspective applies to everything from HR practices, rules, products, customer services, work environment, strategy, and more. You have to show that you can provide constructive advice and feedback while offering unique solutions to existing problems. A good practice is to ask the interviewers about any recent issue they've had that is becoming a nuisance for them. Then provide them with a possible solution. There's a good chance you may succeed in providing a viable solution. Furthermore, you should also mention any experience you've had with product development or product ideation. It would give you a unique advantage in the interview process. And number 9, how would you motivate employees as a human resource coordinator? There's always a rather technical question during the interview, and most hiring managers tend to ask about motivation. This is another chance to show that you're passionate about HR. You get to explain how you would be managing employees. At this point, you need to explain your HR knowledge and your personal beliefs on the ideal way of employee management. It's important to know that there are no templates for motivating employees. It's always a process, and that process is different for each HR professional. Mention what you've learned through experience. It's also a good practice to back up your answers with relevant examples. So use those real life personal examples of success, and that will really help make you stand out. Let's say you took your staff out of the office for a team building event that was monthly or every 2 months, and it was something that became part of the tradition for your department. And thanks to this event, you had healthier employees who stayed at the company longer, and this led to ultimately lower rates of absenteeism as well and medical leaves. Or you had a staff recognition day to show your employees that they deserve to have their own special day if they do great work. Or you go ahead and provide professional training. A good way to show your employees you care about their career development is to provide them with professional training. You can organize meetings, seminars, courses, and conferences for your employees to attend. It's important that you show independence and initiative in your answers. Provide viable solutions like, again, training programs, maybe conflict management seminars, and more. What have you done that's tangible? And now we have question number 10. Do you prefer working with others or alone in HR? The ending question is always a tricky one. Everyone knows HR professionals need to be team players. At this point, you can't afford to flinch while answering. You have to be absolutely direct in implying that you prefer working with everyone because that's who you are as an HR professional. You can't say something like it's part of the job to work with others. That implies you're just a team player because it's in the job description. You have to show that you like being a team player, you prefer working with others, and that you chose the HR profession because of that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the worst types of answers to interview questions, so you can be sure to avoid these in your responses. You get asked, why should we hire you? A bad answer here is, I don't know, or it sounds like a good job. Saying you don't know or giving a vague answer is never a good way to respond to any interview question. These type of responses will make you seem unprepared and unqualified. If you need to, take a little time to think about an answer before you respond. Then respond to the question with an answer that illustrates how your qualifications and strengths fit the job. 2. Tell me about your last job. A bad answer here, didn't you look at my resume? This is not the way to answer this question about your employment history. Have patience with interviewers. Not only do they talk a lot about the people that they interview, but also this is a standard interview question that helps interviewers open up a conversation with you. Be prepared to discuss your previous job with the interviewer and review your resume ahead of time so you know where you worked and when. Think of this question as an opportunity for you to highlight your impressive qualifications as well as any skills that map well to the job you're interviewing for. And number 3 here, what did you like least about your previous position? A bad answer here is, I hated the job at the company. They were awful to work for. It's important not to badmouth the companies or people you worked for because you don't know what relationships they may have with the company you're interviewing with. Plus, a negative response when discussing your previous job will make interviewers wonder if you had a poor attitude or may complain about their company if you were hired. Even though this question seems framed to draw out something negative, do your best to keep your response positive. One way to do this is to discuss how you grew from your experience. And 4, what are your strengths? A bad answer here is, I do good work, or I'm great at a lot of things, or I'm not sure, but I'm a good learner. Don't miss out on this opportunity. The interviewer wants to know what really makes you stand out, especially for the job that you're applying for. And of course, when answering these questions, make sure to talk about specific skills you have as they relate to the job rather than giving general answers. The more general you are, the less likely you'll land your job. And number 5, tell me about yourself. Don't talk about your personal life and how you like to go to football games or baseball games. Sure, that may be an interest, but what the interviewers are really interested in understanding is what you're like as a worker. You'll generally be better off by using this opening to mention some of your professionally oriented attributes that help you get the job done. You can add 1 or 2 personal items at the end to round things out. For example, if you're applying for a job as a recruiter, you might say something like, I am a good listener and a skilled interviewer who can usually read people well. Or at my previous job, the retention of my hires was 20% above the department average. I've taken up golf and loved it, but I'm struggling to shoot less than 100. While you can get a lot of classic interview tips and classic questions and answers online, it's still hard for job seekers to ace their interview process. That's mostly because the HR coordinator job is complicated and requires you to have the appropriate experience and knowledge. That's also what justifies the average HR coordinator salary. In any case, to ace the HR coordinator interview questions, you have to make sure all your HR knowledge and concepts are clear. And once that's done, go through the questions and answers above to get an idea of what you should expect and how to answer them appropriately. And there we have it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. That way you can keep up with everything about human resources, and I wish you the best of luck in your HR career. Cheers.